been really fun to sit in the corner while you've all been talking about the books, and now to get you in these kind of come down moments. You've been laughing so much, and reading, particularly Allison Pearson, has just been reading funny bits out, and also noticing the bits that, you know, perhaps might find their way into your own novels, Allison. I mean, I think that was a joke, I should point out.
Not really, no, because comic novelists are shameless magpies, Alex, as you'll know. So if we see a nice glinting funny line, we think, that could be recycled. And there's so much talent in the books we've been talking about today.
I mean, you've really, haven't you, all been impressed with the books? I've got Marian and Kathy Lette here too, and also, of course, the esteemed Helen Lederer.
Not speaking. I'm not allowed to speak.
You are allowed to speak. In fact, you're required to.
Okay, but
you can't stop Helen speaking. Good luck
true.
trying.
But go with the women first.
You loved them all, didn't you, Marian?
Yeah, I thought the shortlist was wonderful because it represented so many different kinds of women. You know, we had older women, much older women, talking about sex in the Punjabi Widows. We had an 18-year-old woman in the exact opposite of OK. You know, we've had working mothers.
We had undiagnosed autism in Eleanor Oliphant.
Yeah. Like it was very heartening to see the diversity of comic novels being written by women out there.
It does bring you right to that thing, doesn't it? Okay, what's a comic novel? What does humour in a novel mean? Just funny, just jokes, not just, but jokes, funny, situations, a larger resonance. Kathy, what did you
Jokes
think?
are only funny to me if they're underlining something much more serious. You know, when you laugh at something, it's like strapping a giant shock absorber to your brain. It takes the sting out of it. And so if it's a joke about racism or sexism or any sort of violence or whatever, being able to laugh at it, it stops hurting you. And so they're the jokes I like. And all of these books were addressing very serious issues in the most brilliantly satirical fashion. And they all succeeded. It was very, very hard to make the choice. We got down to 2. But being women, of course, there was no blood on the shag pile. Yeah.
No, I mean, I must say, you know, Helen, you've kind of smoothed things along with a lot of brownies and elderflower cordial. But it has been, indeed, very cordial. Even when you've all been sticking up for your particular...
And not everyone had the same
not at all. Not at all. You didn't come in with a winner in mind.
No, very different. And I think there was quite robust questioning between ourselves. And to you know, I mean, several could win, a couple could win, and one has to be a winner. It's our first year. We can't give 5 shortlisted books the winning prize because I don't think that as much
I think
as
this is the point where I say, though, if you're on the shortlist, you're a winner already.
Yeah.
Totally.
But obviously, saying that to published writers, you may not all agree with that. You may think
I don't think I've ever been shortlisted for anything. But
I got best
delighted.
I got best legs at Bondi.
Well, look at
it. That's all I've ever got.
This is essentially kind of one of the reasons, isn't it, why we're all sitting in this room and why Helen has got us all sitting in this room. Is when Marian, you say something like that you've never been shortlisted, I mean, you know, that makes me want to run out into Soho and smash a window with a hammer, though I'd get her. But it's ridiculous.
Smash the glass ceiling. If you're going to break any glass, do that.
Can we point out that the year that the P.G. Wodehouse Prize didn't pick any winner because there weren't any funny books?
Not even a long list.
Yeah. Allison, Kathy and I all had books out that year.
Allegedly quite funny ones, but you know.
Yeah, but obviously
so
not.
hang on, so you're saying that you're sitting here around this table seething malcontents.
Revenge is a dish best served with your own comedy prize.
Yeah, beautiful.
I would say, actually, poetic justice is the only true justice in the world, you know, and I say that having been married to a lawyer. Impale your enemies on the end of your pen. In this case, on the end of your pens of all these incredible
I would also add that with these different books, so women were a servant class to men for so long, and laughter, humour, shared humour. There's nothing as good as shared female laughter, and it's the laughter of the slaves when the master's away, and it continues to have that power. And in these books, you've got all these very diverse groups of women, but they're finding humour in their predicament.
And that's why men say women aren't funny, because they're frightened.
Because
what
we're
they being
mean
funny
women
about,
are
it's very
subversive.
subversive. And this is backed up by anthropologists say that women laugh more often than men in all cultures on the planet. especially in all-female groups. And what they're laughing at often are male foibles.
Well,
So,
as somebody who was nominated for the PG Woodhouse Prize,
that's
Um,
right.
She said.
Shall I slap her?
That, in case you're not sure, everybody listening to this, that was Helen Lederer
Yeah.
coming in there.
And-
She
but-
was nominated
but what is
for the
interesting-
PG Woodhouse.
yeah, what is interesting is how things have evolved in the last few years very rapidly. We're in a very fast-moving time, and I felt, I've never won anything but to be nominated when it wasn't the norm. I think the stats are like 3. I could get it wrong. I skipped
Three from 19
in all that
years.
time. So
Yeah.
obviously I was really proud. It was my first novel. But they have changed, and this is changing the canvas again. That there was 4 women nominated this year, wasn't it?
Yeah, 4 out
So
of
the-
6
so
on the
we-
shortlist were
you
women.
could say-
Change
and
that.
a woman won.
We changed it with these amazing judges, with the pedigree of best-selling authors around this table. We have to get quick together with these practitioners means that we are influencing the wider canvas. So it sounds really,
I've no doubt that with that prize that they were shamed this year into putting some
It's-
women
that was
on
an
it.
influence.
But the judging,
Because it was just so howlingly embarrassing that
Yeah.
they'd made a dreadful blunder and they had to make amends.
And
for
also
it.
the judging panel, it was 5 men and 1 woman, I think, on the prize. Anyway, and I think we know that men don't read books by women. They don't even read dead women. They don't even read Jane Austen often. They read non-fiction usually, but any fiction they read is by men. So I doubt many of those male judges had ever slipped between our covers. Satisfaction guaranteed, I hasten to add.
I think a very important question is that what is funny on the page? What actually makes us laugh out loud? I mean, that's challenging and difficult enough.
Yeah.
And then, but because we know Muriel Spark exists, there are women throughout the ages who are witty, acerbic. They don't have to do Bridget Jones' Canvas.
there's
we're-
many different kinds
There
of
are
We're
many
widening it.
Many.
They don't have to do one thing.
Hundreds. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you think about Jane Austen's wit, which is often seen as cosy, is absolutely lethal.
Yeah.
I mean, you can cut your hands on her
Oh, yeah.
wit,
You could shave your legs on those, the sharpness of her wit.
So we're saying all that now, so it's lovely. That's conversation.
I'm going to come to the eventual winner, and you did really agonise, but I mean, I think, Alison, once you mentioned the wonderful words Nora Ephron in connection with this book, I sensed the wind was going in a particular direction, and you also made a tremendously eloquent case for why the exact opposite of OK by Laura Stephen should win. You think it's a book that speaks to now?
I really do. I mean, you could argue that it was a bit unfinished. She's a very young author. She is uproariously funny, and she's taken a very dark subject, a tragic subject for young people, particularly young women today, in an era of sexting and revenge porn and all this kind of thing. So our heroine, Izzy, has these photographs shared of her, and it's absolutely horrendous. And there is a defiant comic spirit in it, and you are laughing, something to laugh at. We were all thinking bits on every page, and she does mention Nora Ephron at one point, and I thought, yes, there's that wonderful lethal timing of jokes, and there's such a tone of voice, isn't there?
Yeah, it's so fresh, it's so confident. As you say, Alison, like the quips happen almost every line, but not to the point where you feel like, steamrollered by it. I love her voice, and I love the character, because the character, she owns her own sexual agency, which in a time when women are still slut-shamed, it's just lovely. She sleeps with 2 boys in the one night. She makes that decision. She doesn't agonise about it afterwards. And when other people try to shame her for it, she won't accept it. And I think that's a wonderful, it's a wonderful message to kind of try and realign how men who sleep with lots of people are regarded as legends, whereas women are sluts.
Yeah.
And I love, there's a great freshness, there's a great exuberance. It's, very funny, and I'm taking some of Kathy's lines now, but it's very, very warm, so I'm going to shut up now.
No, gosh, we all agreed. We all agreed it gave us what we call quiplash, and the criteria of the prize was that funniest book had to win, and by far this was the funniest.
Yeah.
And as Allison said, she is Nora Ephron-esque. But I also love the serious subject matter beneath the. It's like a cappuccino. It's all frothy on the top, but underneath it hits you like hard espresso. And what she's saying is about the slut shaming. And it's unbelievable to me that after all this time, a man who's sexually active is still a love god, a stud muffin, a spunk rat, Lothario. A woman with the same sexual appetites is still a slut, a tart, a tramp, a mole. Men expect girls to be so virginal. It's like when the guy says to you, "Oh, darling, darling, am I the first man to make love to you?" To which the woman replies, "Of course. I don't know why you men keep asking the same silly question."
I think it would be great if this was, available on the school curriculum.
Yes.
Because I think if you were
Yeah.
14 or 15, it's a real
Yeah.
antidote. You can read this and think, right, Izzy's
Wouldn't
got
it be
the...
so comforting?
It would be. I think it would be.
Yeah.
For us as older women, and mothers or not, it's a wonderful insight into that youth culture. But I imagine if you were 15, 16 reading this, you'd find it
be useful.
really
Yes,
useful.
I know.
Empowering.
Such a blast. This
Empowering.
person comes through it. It's not the worst thing in the world that can happen to you.
And with Kathy's point there about the context, my feminist game-changing book was Erica Yong, Fear of Flying. And your point about this was the first time, coming from a time of the 50s and 60s, that a woman either had to be an intellectual nun or get married. And this is about changing the rules, showing your word empowering that, you can have sex outside marriage, not just, you can have sex if you want sex. I think it could be a game-changing book contextually. And I mean, that sounds so serious, but it seems that the judges did all find it funny.
Well, it's so interesting. What to come back to what you were kind of alluding to there, and I know it came up in the conversation during the judging process. And we should say that we also had Shazia, Mirza, and Katie Brand involved in the discussions too. They've had to go, but you were talking about the fact that this, there's a youthful protagonist, heroine. How can I put this? None of us, and I'm including myself, we're not in that demographic, are we?
No.
And yet, it still absolutely spoke to all of you.
Well,
It was age.
Shazia is a fantastic stand-up comedian, and she thought this author was that funny. The jokes keep on coming. But I, as an author, I always think that being laughed into recognition is so much more powerful than being preached at.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Always.
So you could have a sex education class
Yeah,
in a school
yeah.
talking about sexting, and people would just sort of sit there, whatever, looking at their phones. But this would actually confront it and really make you, young women and young men, laugh. And I think that would
the
be very
humour
powerful.
would take the mortification out of it.
Yeah.
But like you're right, Alex, to say that none of us are 18, which is the age of the
I was
protagonist.
trying to say it
It's
really
grand.
more diplomatically than that.
No.
You just come out there and said it. That's why you're a best-selling
I'm
writer.
thrilled to be 56. I absolutely love it. But I think no matter what age we get to be, for me anyway, it's very easy to reconnect with the teenage me,
Yeah,
and how
gosh,
absolutely frightening the world was, and how hard it was to know how to live and how to do it all.
Well, Marian,
There's-
we weren't growing up with this
Yes,
giant
yeah.
reflecting mirror
of
of
social
social
media.
I think we've
media.
all got that thought somehow
Yeah.
in us that,
Yeah.
my God, what if we'd had to
And
go
I
through what people go
honestly
through now?
think both being a young person and being a parent of a young person now is really tough.
And there's no manual. This is a sort of a how-to manual.
Yeah.
And that's what's so good about it.
Yeah.
And as comic authors, we probably all know the best way to get any message across is to disarm with charm. Because when you make someone laugh, they put their defences down and they absorb the message much more easily. And she succeeds in that point incredibly well. It's pacey, it's succinct, it's original, it's topical, and it's laugh out loud funny. And that ticks all the boxes of our prize criteria.
And we don't only want it to be read by teenage girls or young women, do we?
I wish young men would read
Men
it.
as well, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just for the beauty of the humour in the words,
They
in
might-
the style.
They might be ovulating by the end of the book, but that's no bad thing. No bad thing at all. Well, we need to-
So it's been just fascinating listening to you. But I feel I ought to let you go back to your desks and write
Yes.
some comic novels that, who knows, may
please.
even one day get shortlisted for the PG Woodhouse Prize. No, we shun that now. We shun that now.
Done that one.
she does it.
No,
didn't you?
I was shortlisted
You were,
for the
yes.
best for a win.
Yeah.
I don't know how she does it, but
Yeah.
was weirdly defeated by some unfunny novel by a man. How could
How
that
did
have
that
happened?
happen?
Well, it's quite strange, isn't it? Because 17 years later, people will still come up in the street and they will quote you
Yeah,
lines and scenes from
it
I don't
was
know how she does
seismic.
it, which
It
is
was.
funny. I don't think anyone's quoting Vernon God Little to people on a regular basis, but this could be. Yeah. Anyway, as we say, we are rectifying that now. We're celebrating
Yeah.
women's
Yeah.
wonderful laughter.
Fantastic celebration.
I'm so lucky to have the judges and all the people who've helped doing it. Amazing group of people. Amazing.
Can I just make one complaint? I have laughed so much. I now have to get some incredibly expensive face cream
Yes.
to get rid of the laughter
Yes.
line. So I think you should actually hand out wrinkle-resistant cream for
I've
the
got
next
free
judges at
tights
this
for
prize.
everyone. Does that help?
Yes.